to you, Lord. Receive them as praises from us. And as we listen to the next message coming to us on the health message from our sister, may you speak to us that we may understand how we can build our physical life for a better spiritual life to prepare us for your coming. In Jesus' name we do pray all this. Amen. Want to welcome you again. Thank you, the choristers, for making the church to stand. At least the blood has flowed to the right place to keep us awake. We want to welcome our sister Faith Ochieng. We are blessed in our church to have many professionals on health. So today is her chance to take us through a health message. And tomorrow we shall have the last health message. Oh, tomorrow, no, today is the last health message. Tomorrow we don't have an afternoon. And so all the programs happening this afternoon today shall be the end of it all until Sabbath. How many welcome Sister Faith Ochieng? Thank you. Sister Faith, you are welcome to come and present to us the health message.
Thank you, Elder. Okay. Good afternoon. I hope we all enjoyed our lunch. So we want to spend 20 minutes as we go through the health talk session. We already went through the health risk immediately after the health camp that we had within the church ground. And our first elder also took us through general overview of the non-communicable diseases and how that affects us and how we can manage that. So today, I want to talk about anxiety disorders. I am sure that if not all of us, maybe majority of us experience anxiety at different levels, some great, some spontaneous, some occasionally. So we want to talk about anxieties. And going through anxiety is a normal part of life. And many people worry about things such as health, money. Currently in Kenya, we have been having demonstrations. That is because life is very hard. And we want the government to listen to us and make life bearable, use our tax as well. And those mandamandos are caused by the worries and anxieties that we go through. And also family problems can give you anxiety. And those of us who already have families, a child is sick, one is misbehaving, you talk to them, they don't listen, that can cause you anxiety. For people with anxiety disorder, the anxiety does not go away, if it does not go away, it can get worse over time. And the symptoms can interfere with your daily activities. Have you seen people when you're walking, or even you yourself, you speak to yourself, but you don't know you're speaking to yourself? Of course, when you get to such moments, I like speaking to myself, you are going through an anxiety. But when I speak to myself most of the time, I am having a discussion of a certain issue that I am critically thinking about. Yeah, so in such circumstances, I can't say it is anxiety. I am just critically reasoning with myself. I am reasoning with myself. So it can also interfere with for children, small children, school, teachers. Sometimes you teach, even here in the club when we teach, you see a child is not concentrating. They are going through anxiety. Maybe it's a family problem. Maybe they feel they're not loved enough by a parent or all parents, or they're going through something in school. So we have several types of anxiety disorders. We have generalized anxiety disorder, which is characterized by excessive worry, when you worry too much over a long period of times. Then we have panic disorders, characterized by panic attacks. We'll discuss about them shortly. Then we have social anxiety disorder, like you cannot stand here and speak. It is just impossible for some people. Then there's separation anxiety disorder, the fear of being separated from your loved ones. There are people who, especially boys, when they are small, they don't want to be separated from their mummies. They cling. Others don't want to be separated from their daddies. You have a very clingy behavior. You are already anxious of being separated. Then we have various phobias-related disorders. So WHO, World Health Organization fact sheet, tells us that in 2019, we had 301 million people. That is a huge number, yes, living with an anxiety disorder among those that I have listed. And this includes 58 million children and adolescents. I don't know if your children fear not having friends. I see my children, they always ask, will my friends be there? They are anxious. What if I go, then I am lonely? They're already anxious. They don't want to be without friends. They want to be sure that at least one friend of mine is around. And occasionally I spot children. You will see one child is sitting in a tent alone. And in that tent, maybe there are adults. So you can just see that, you can observe there's a problem. So the number is huge, and this is 2019 data. So we don't know what the data says now. In Kenya, we are not very good at collecting such kind of information. So I didn't get the exact data of what number of people are suffering from anxiety disorders. And even if you are suffering from an anxiety, you will go to a facility, the doctor will look at you, and they will not pin the problem. Yes, they will not pin the. When my daughter was sick, for those who know, my daughter was sick and got admitted. On the third day, they brought a team of neurologists, and I asked, what is the problem? They quickly narrowed down to a mental case. It was not a mental case. They were doing misdiagnosis. So you see there's a problem with our health system as well in diagnosing these disorders or health problems that you might be having. So the disorders are normally characterized by excessive fear and worry and other behavioral disturbances. And symptoms can be severe enough to result in significant distress or impairment functioning of your daily activity lives. And if you see an individual suffering from anxiety disorder, usually they overestimate the danger. Have you seen people who fear chicks? Mtoto wa kuku. I used to have that fear when I was small. So until now I grew up, I knew now this is a problem. To date, I fear holding a small chick. I also fear dogs terribly. At one point, I went with my husband to see a neighbor, and I didn't know there was a dog underneath. They have a big bus. They use that bus for mission. There were 2 dogs lying there. The dogs waited until we walked in the middle of the compound. You can just imagine what happened. I think I shocked him. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know whether to rescue me or to keep the dogs away. I was just screaming hysterically, and they had visitors. They do Airbnb. So the white people are coming out. They love dogs. They are wondering, this black woman is screaming. The dogs had red eyes like they took something. I looked at it very well. It was just a confusing moment that they couldn't even speak. You don't know what to do. And I was screaming to the top. He did not say anything. I think he asked me after 2 weeks, were you okay on that day? I told him I was okay, but you see now I was also holding a grudge because I expected him to protect me. He did not protect me at that moment. He did not offer the protection that I expected, and he knows I fear dogs. So it is trauma that I'm still healing through. Yeah, so, and you see, as I've said, these anxieties develop from childhood, and if they're not treated, you grow up with them. Yeah, so from childhood, I fear dogs, I fear chicks. So at some point, I was keeping chicken, then I said, I cannot keep something that I can't handle the baby. I stopped keeping it because of fear. So let's go into detail. Yeah, we'll begin with generalized anxiety disorder. So it usually involves a persistent feeling of anxiety or dread, just fear, which can interfere with your daily life. So for me, if I come to your place, I will ask you, stand at the gate and confirm there is no dog that is open. And I will peep first. So if I come and visit you and you see me peeping, I am not weird. I am just dealing with my fears. So it is not the same as occasionally worrying about things, like you can worry about, will I have enough fare to move around until the month ends? No. Or experiencing anxiety due to stressful life. It's more than that. It can last like for a whole month or for years if it is not handled within time. So some of the symptoms when you have generalized anxiety disorder includes feeling restless. You are just restless. You are on the edge all the time. You are feeling tired, overwhelmed. Sometimes after there's nothing you are doing, but you are just tired by 10 a.m., you are very tired. Having difficulty concentrating. For those who have children, your child is telling you something, you just do until the child begins to ask you, why is it that when I'm talking to you, you just do Are you okay? Are you listening to me? And sometimes you will see the child taking your face to face so that you can face each other. You lose concentration. Then you are very irritable, mothers. Very irritable. Amekwambia mimi nasikia njaa. Where? You can't see where the food is. That one already signals something. Then you have constant headaches, muscle aches, stomach aches, or unexplained pains. You just say, hey, today I woke up, my whole body is feeling pain. And you cannot explain the source of the pain. And then you have difficulty controlling feelings of worry. You cannot get out your mind out of that worry. You're always worried. Then you have sleeping problems. There are people who sleep past midnight. They tell you, I can't fall asleep. What do you mean you sleep by 8? They think you are the one who is not okay. Yet they're the ones who are not okay. Or even if they fall asleep, by 2 or 1 they are awake, and then they cannot go back to bed. It is very serious, And you see, when you don't sleep for some time, you will be a walking zombie on these streets. I will be facing Stella. Stella is seeing me, but she's not seeing me. She's just seeing her image talking to her, but in her mind, she's not conceiving that this is Faith who is speaking to me. Yeah. Then the second one is panic disorder. People with panic disorder have frequent and unexpected panic attacks. Do you have friends like those? You are walking, all of a sudden, they're just behaving in a manner you cannot even understand. It is a disorder. So panic attacks are sudden periods of intense fear. I live around Masai Lodge. I once took a walk with a friend. Inside Masai Lodge, when you approach the Masai Lodge Hotel, there's a field where you will meet a lot of buffaloes. I didn't know she had fear for animals. I don't know whether it is all because she has dogs. So I don't know whether it is just wild animals. She fainted. And we were just walking, feeling nice, telling stories. I didn't know what to do. I don't know whether she fainted because she was sick. But I called for help. So later on, she told me, I have panic disorder. When I just see wild animals, something happens which I cannot explain. Yes. So when you have friends like that and something like that happens, they need attention. They need some sort of help. Yeah, so there is also discomfort. They are very uneasy. They have a sense of losing control, even where there is no clear danger. You don't see danger, but they already see danger ahead of them. So not everyone who experiences a panic attack will develop a panic disorder. And during a panic attack, a person may experience, of course, the way your heart races. That is so common. Your heart is racing so hard, and you are sweating, you are trembling, or having some ticklish feeling. You can develop chest pain, then feelings of impending doom, and feelings of being out of control. Of course, when you are going through a panic attack, you have no control of the situation at all. For my friend who fainted, she couldn't control. She has fainted, so she needs help. So people with panic disorder often worry about when the next attack will happen. So they are very conscious and actively try to prevent future attacks by avoiding places. Like my friend never took again a walk with me, and I understood why. Because she fainted. I also don't want to walk with somebody who will suddenly faint. Now, if you go to those interior places where there is no car that can come, and perhaps we have gone without our phones, I cannot carry you. So I will just have to do some first aid and see if God can help us. You wake up, we go back home. And panic attacks can occur as frequently as several times a day, or as rarely as few times in a year. Let us look at social anxiety disorder. This one I think is very common. Social anxiety disorder is an intense, persistent fear of being watched and judged by others. Nowadays, we have teens who are very conscious, parents and teachers. I think you have seen the way they are very conscious. They don't want to be judged. And I think teachers who are in class, they normally like giving this comment, our parents normally judge us. They don't understand, So do they have social anxiety? I don't know. Maybe you continue observing them. So the fear of social situations may feel so intense that it seems beyond their control. It can be so intense. For some people, this fear may get in the way of going to work or to school or to do everyday things. So social anxiety should not be confused with shyness. The people who are just shy. This one involves intense fear of being scrutinized and judged. So we should not confuse those two. People with social anxiety disorder may experience blushing. They blush. They will sweat when they are experiencing that, or they might even tremble. Like I will be holding this and my hand is shaking. There is pounding or racing of the heart. They can feel stomach aches. I hear people normally say, I had butterflies. So I don't know whether those are the stomach pains, those butterflies you feel. Then there's a rigid body posture. Kama amesimama hivi, amesimama kabisa, they focus on one point. Or they can speak very slowly. They are whispering, you can hardly hear what they are saying. Then they have difficulty making eye contact or being around people they don't know. They just want to be around familiar spaces, comfortable zone. Feelings of self-conscious or fear that people will judge them negatively. Yet, sometimes people really don't want to judge you. Then we also have phobia-related disorders. So a phobia is an intense fear of a specific object or situations. Although it can be realistic to be anxious in some circumstances, like going through, what are those things? You know, when I was growing up, it was called merry-go-round. How do we call it nowadays? Fair? Yeah, that one, yeah. Some people fear such kind of situation. By the way, when I was a baby, when I was a girl, I think around below 10 years, I fell from that thing. It was a fear. So the fear people with phobias feel is out of proportion to the actual danger caused by the situation or object. So when I was at that age, I don't know what was going on through my head, but I remember falling down from that thing, that height, but I never broke anything. I think God held me, So people with a phobia may have an irrational or excessive worry about encountering the feared object or situation. Do you think I can ever go back to that merry-go-round? Never. Normally when I take my children to, where is this place in Kiambu? They have these things that go up and down. You get into a water, you slide with something like this. They convinced me I went into that one. At my age, I don't know how it feels. I don't even want to say the experience. It is another trauma I added. It was very bad. My daughter regretted later on why she invited me to take that ride with them. So nowadays I take them, I sit and talk with Dennis. At least it's our time to catch up. Yeah. Yeah, so also people with a phobia take active steps to avoid the feared object, like me, I avoid, or the situation. And then they experience immediate intense anxiety upon encountering the feared object. Yeah. Then endure unavoidable objects and situations with intense anxiety. They can be there, but you can see they are really suffering. They are suffering, yeah. Then we have, let us look at types of phobias and phobia-related disorders. So we have specific phobias. As the name suggests, people who have specific phobias have an intense fear of or feel intense anxiety about specific types of objects or situations. Like your friends who will never board a plane, when the plane takes off, there's a feeling those people get. And once they take that ride once, they will never, ever take that ride. One of them is my mother-in-law. She's old now. She, because of her age, when she's feeling unwell, you have to bring her to Nairobi quickly, so you take her to board a plane. She did it twice. She said never. She'd rather have the long trip. And sometimes she's so sick, you're wondering, why are you suffering more? And from here to our home is, if you are driving in a soberly manner, it will take you 5 hours. But if you are in a hurry, 3 to 4 hours is okay. But you pray that God's leading be with you on the road. So my mother-in-law fears flying, and we cannot convince her to take flight. Then there are people who fear heights. Kabisa, they fear heights and they will not get into a place that is, they can be on a track, a walking track, and below there is a river passing like this. They will never get onto those things. Then there are people who fear specific animals, like I fear dogs, and the chicken. And there are people who fear receiving injections. I think many adults fear receiving injections. It is a small thing, but very, very painful. And then there are those who see blood and they collapse. They faint. Yeah, so it is a specific phobia. So usiseme, you are an adult and how can you faint when you see blood? No, they are dealing with something and they need to be helped. Yeah. And then we have agoraphobia. People with agoraphobia have an intense fear of 2 or more of the following situations: using public transportation, or being in an open space. When they're in open spaces, they're always scanning around because they think something is going to happen. There are also those who hate being in an enclosed space. They can never be in a place without knowing where the exit is. Yeah. And then there are people who hate standing in line or being in a crowd. You will never find them in a crowd. If you're going to crowded places, they will remain behind. And then being outside of the home alone. They must have company when they are going outside of their home. So people with agoraphobia often avoid these situations that I've mentioned. And they avoid them in part because they think being able to leave might be difficult or impossible in the event they have panic-like reactions. So I think people like these ones hawakuenda maandamano, because maandamano was very hostile. Yeah. Or they also fear being embarrassed. You know, when you're in a public place, like Nairobi is very cruel, haujui mtu atakwambia nini, and it can come from any corner. So they will avoid such kind of situations. Then we have separation anxiety disorder. Here I am a number 1 victim. I fear being separated. Separation anxiety disorder is a childhood onset disorder in which the child is having unusual fear and anxiety about separation from parents or somebody they are attached to the degree that it is developmentally inappropriate. Is anybody here with me on this one? Yeah. I fear separation completely. When my daughter went to boarding school. I think I used to have nightmares, I think for a whole year until I told myself, no, this girl will one day get married. Will I go to her house and stay there so that I see her every day? I will go babysit. Now, before they get babies, no, the husband might chase, where will I get another husband for her? Yeah, this is a very bad disorder, and I think it runs in our family. Immediately after Dennis came home to seek for my hand in marriage, and my mother never spoke to me for quite some time. Yeah, it was a very long time. I think it was even more than 3 years. Yes. Where are you taking her daughter? And my brother just confessed recently after I graduated and he came to my house that me getting married was not part of his plan for me. And I was like, surely you can say such a thing and there are people in the house listening. And at my age. So you see, it is in our family we suffer from separation anxiety. It is not a nice thing to suffer from. Yeah, it is not really nice. So the fear of separation caused great distress to the child. And I think to me, I loved my dad so much. It began from being separated from my dad when I was a small child. So this is where it began. And because I have an auntie who never got a child, my father donated me to my auntie. So I lived in Nairobi. And whenever I would go home to visit my dad, nowadays is when I understand these things, I will disappear when it is time to come back. I will disappear, and of course, you have to go back home at the end of the day. So I will go back home, but they will put me in the next bus the next day. Parents, why do you do this to your children? Or are you ignorant? Yeah, so my children don't go for sleepovers. I want to see you daily when we are both alive. Yeah. So because I suffered this, it was so intense that it's something I'm still dealing with. Yeah. So please, stay with your children if you can. If there is no circumstance that will force you to take them to boarding school, I regret taking my daughter to boarding school, but at least she's finishing. But I also have another problem. When she finishes, she goes to university. You don't know where she will go to. So there's still that separation anxiety. Yeah, so the clinical features of separation anxiety disorder include fear of losing or being separated from the person you are attached to. It's very bad. And then you can have nightmares. I had nightmares for more than a year. I'm thinking, what is this one now doing? Then I thought about it. I discussed with somebody. Then they told me, you see now, your son thinks you don't love him. So I said, okay, let me leave his photo there. I figured out how to have my daughter's photo with me, a printed one. I will have it in my purse, in my Bible, things that I like opening, so that when I open, I see. Yeah. See, somebody is pitying me here. That is why we're dealing with it. And then repeated temper tantrums. Okay, as a child, I think I had those tantrums when you just disappear and then you appear in the evening. See, you are throwing a tantrum as a child. Yes. Then unusual distress at the discussion of separation from attachment figures. Then persistent worry of an unexpected event that could lead to separation. Yeah. When my dad died, I suffered from this last one. And then there is selective mutism, which is a childhood disorder characterized by inability or failure to speak in certain social situations where one is expected to speak. Have you ever asked a child, you are so happy with them? Like there are people who are so bubbly with children, but this child will not speak back to you, while others are bubbling up and speaking. Yeah, so they are suffering from selective mutism. They are not able to bring themselves up to speak because they are not used to you. They need to get used to you, be comfortable with you. So it is a disorder that we need to watch out for as we bring up children so that it doesn't affect them when they are grown up like me. Yeah. So clinical features of selective mutism, they are excessively shy. Then there is social isolation. I said occasionally I spot children who are sitting alone. You're wondering why they are alone, yet they have their schoolmates within the compound here. They have their neighbors. Those are people they know. They also fear embarrassment. They don't want to be embarrassed in any way. They like clinging to their caregivers, could be their parents, their nannies, their aunties, uncles. Then they have temper tantrums. And there is lack of social communication and interference in academic performance. Because also in school, they will not speak. The teacher will be talking to them and they're just quiet. So of course, the teacher will just move on and maybe speak to the parent if they go to that length. So how is anxiety treated? So these anxiety disorders are generally treated with psychotherapy or medication or both. So one should seek the help of a healthcare provider so that you can discuss this over and they will know which specific anxiety disorder you are suffering from. Then they can work with you in overcoming this. So for psychotherapy, which can also be a talk therapy, can help people with anxiety disorder. So the way I'm talking here and sharing my experience, I am healing in a way. So to be effective, psychotherapy must be directed at your specific anxieties. Like now, Miss, you've realized I have more than one anxiety disorder. Yeah, so you must narrow down to the specific ones so that you get a tailored way of helping you manage or deal with the problem. And then there's cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one type of psychotherapy that can help people with anxiety disorders. It teaches people different ways of thinking, of behaving, and reacting to situations to help you feel less anxious and fearful. So cognitive behavioral therapy has been well studied and is the gold standard of psychotherapy. Of course, if it gives you practical ways of thinking and behaving, I think it will take you a great mile towards recovery path. Then there is exposure therapy, which is also a cognitive behavioral therapy method that is used to treat anxiety disorders. Exposure therapy focuses on confronting the fears underlying an anxiety disorder, like taking a flight. You fear taking a flight, but you encourage yourself that I will take a flight. So you can engage in such activities, you expose yourself to such fears and try to deal and overcome with the fear. Then there's acceptance and commitment therapy. So another treatment option for some anxiety disorders is that acceptance and commitment therapy. And in short, we call it ACT. It takes different approach than the cognitive behavioral therapy to negative thoughts. It uses strategies such as mindfulness and goal setting to reduce discomfort and anxiety. So you set up goals for yourself and you try to achieve those goals. So let me move forward, okay? And then there's also medication. So medication does not cure anxiety disorders, but can help relieve symptoms. So healthcare providers such as psychiatrists and primary care provider can prescribe medication for anxiety if it is necessary to help you relieve some of the symptoms you already discussed. So how can we overcome anxiety from a biblical approach? When we turn to our Bibles, Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 to 7, it says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, what should we do? We present, our request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard our hearts and our minds in Christ Jesus. So we see that it is not possible not to be anxious about anything. We are always anxious. So it is highly unlikely we could ever live our lives without a single moment of worry. Yeah, as humans, we like worry. Even Abraham did not have a child for some time and he worried. But God finally gave him a son. So putting our trust in God takes prayer and practice. While it is inevitable that we will have feelings of anxiety, we don't have to get lost in them. Don't get lost in your worries. Thankfully, God's word gives specific instructions for handling anxiety. So as we have read, we can become less anxious through prayer. It tells us with prayer and supplication. Then we can present our petitions to our loving Father. Just before lunch break, Pastor told us that our Father is loving. Then expressing gratitude. We can develop a habit of expressing gratitude. And then have trust in God. Yeah. If you have trust in God, He will guard your hearts and your minds so that it is continually stayed in God and that you have peace. Peace that even you yourself will not understand that you are broke, but you are peaceful. Yeah, you are broke, but you are very, very peaceful. You are not worrying. And then we read Matthew 6, verse 34. It says, therefore do not worry about tomorrow. For tomorrow will worry about it itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So just focus on today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Present it. See, we have already said we present our petitions to God. Yeah, present it to God and have complete trust and faith that God has heard your request and is going to provide. And of course, for God to provide, you must also be in good standing with the Lord. Sindio? Yeah, you cannot be requesting God to provide all the time and you're not in good standing with the Lord. You must work hard to be in good standing with the Lord. So this Bible verse offers profound wisdom for individuals grappling with disorders. You focus on the present. Jesus encourages us to concentrate on the challenges of today rather than dwelling on potential future anxieties that we have no control over. Then trust in God's provision. If we are standing here, we are seated here today, see, it is God who has given us life. Yeah, so we should trust Him. He has enabled us to come for camp meeting. We are listening to these great messages that are renewing our relationship with Him. Trust in His provisions. Then have limitless worry. Excessive worry is unproductive. It is very, very unproductive. And it will even make you sick. You know, the way stress causes many diseases, we're even told it can lead to cancer. So why engage in a lot of worry? It will not help you. Then when you look at Luke chapter 12, verse 25 to 31, it reads, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Imagine you worry, but you cannot give yourself life. Since you cannot do this very little thing, the Bible says this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wildflowers grow. I normally love this part. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. Yani, when this Bible verse started thinking, you know, you pass flowers and you respect them. You don't want to see children plucking flowers of you. You really respect them. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will He clothe you? You have little faith. And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it, for the pagan world runs after all such things. And your Father knows that you need them. He knows that we need these things we are worrying about. But seek His kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. That is what we get from the book of Luke chapter 12, 25 to 31, which offers profound spiritual counsel that can be applied to the challenges of anxiety that we have spoken about.